Okay. Hi guys, I haven't been reviewing much of anything as far as games, just gotta change YouTube housing and all that. But anyway, yeah, I just recently completed Mass Effect Andromeda. I just want to get my thoughts on it. This is kind of an overall review. I think I'll make another couple of videos about what I thought about the story. Anyway, cut the chase here. Pros. Um, Graphics, they're pretty decent actually, despite the human animation problems, the human character animation problems. Aliens are okay. Um, environmental or the environments within the game are beautifully rendered. Uh, just gorgeous in some areas. The codex, of course, typical Mass Effect quality. Uh, codex is very well written, um, and I had nothing to complain about that. We should expect this kind of quality in a Mass Effect game. Um, Skills, there's lots of things you can play with skills. It's a pro for a lot of people. I'll get back to this a little bit later. And so there's a lot of variability here. The armor, uh, a lot of modding available, some crafting with weapons at research stations that you can find on the Tempest, at forward stations on planets, and I believe on the Nexus as well. I spent a lot of time on the Nexus. Spent most of my time planet side. A lot of variety here. The mods and the types of assault rifles, for example, pistols, shotguns, the amount of crafting you can do by adding augmentations. Of course, you can buff the weapons. I think this was introduced way back in Mass Effect 1 as far as adding specific ammo types to buff weapons, shields, support. And there's these mods now that they've added that add buffs. There's also pretty severe nerfs. Melee damage, minus 20%. Power damage, weapon damage. So, these are all armor mods. There's weapon mods that you can add. So I thought that was interesting. I like playing around with those when I was doing crafting. And I've got tons of blueprints here. There's a lot of detail here, and I think this is kind of pro-con type situation. You can't get kind of lost in them. I picked this up somewhere. Most of these you will pick up in the environment. But yeah, there's agility mod. You can even mod the Mako. They call it the Nomad. And yeah, unfortunately you can't put weapons on it. As far as mixed, they just went over that a little bit. What I consider mixed is this UI is not very intuitive at all. Put in folders. There's tabs up here. Again, there's a lot to it. It just takes a while. It's kind of a steep learning curve as far as how to use these folders and tabs and the UI in general proficiently. You just have to be patient with it. Realize that you're going to need to spend some time just going over this, and it once you do that, it pays for itself. You become much more efficient with your crafting. You're able to mod your armor, weapons, even the Nomad. Unfortunately, you can't mount weapons in the Nomad, which I wish they would have done that. More vehicular combat in this would have been cool. I actually didn't mind the Mako in the first Mass Effect, and a lot of people had problems with it, and was kind of buggy. control system. Once you practice with it, it wasn't, in my opinion, that bad. I wish they kind of, now that they've made the Nomad slash Mako controls better, I wish they would have added some weapons that you can mount to it and have some sort of vehicular combat. I think that would have been a nice addition. Um, there's a lot of materials that you can sell. Some of these, well, in this particular um, category, the salvageables you can sell augments, uh, buff your system. As you can see, I wasn't a big fan of this grenade launcher. I thought it caused too many ricochets and it was kind of hard to aim. The shots fired kind of dropped annoyingly too low lots of times. It's pretty good to knock enemies out of cover, things like that. But yeah, so the user interface is kind of mixed. There's a lot there. It just takes a long time to learn it all. The music I thought was pretty good. You can hear the music in the background here. It's unfortunate though that there's not a lot of music, and playing a Mass Effect game, one would expect to have a lot of very immersive music that brings you into the environments, brings you into the game, like the original trilogy. And we're all assuming that it's going to be a trilogy. Hopefully, they're going to get better writers, but I'll get into that in a second. So yeah, off to the cons now, and there's a lot of them. We all know about the animation issues that they had, especially with the human characters. They're pretty awful when it first came out. They did some updates, updated the eyes a lot, and that helped quite a bit. It's just unfortunate that there's still a lot of glitches. I've seen NPCs walk through floors and walk back up, stay on top of, for example, a structure and just stay there. Drop down. It seems from a space drop and just get dropped on top of buildings. It really glitchy game, even at this late date. I was really that's one reason why I stopped playing, is because I was hoping that they'd update this game and make it better, and they did in some areas, but for the most part, it's still kind of a sloppy mess. The story, the writing quality in this. The codex is one exception. The codex is great, as one would expect. It's very well done. The journal entries are helpful, but for the most part, the writing is all over the place. It's cringeworthy crap that never should have got out the door, to actually decent writing that is kind of moving and thoughtful. Makes you think. The overall story, I think, is decent. I'll get to that in the next video. But, excuse me. But what really, it's just the inconsistency that just drives you nuts. That you want to feel part of this universe, but feel like you can't. Oh, the maps are okay. I just, they're okay. But overall, the writing is just such a disappointment. The dialogue options and the outcomes of the dialogue choices that you make. I do kind of like the emotional spectra that you can choose, either logical, professional, to overly emotional dialogue options, but the outcomes are all pretty much the same. Not always, but especially in the side quests, there's not enough variety. There's not enough. Your dialogue doesn't have enough influence on outcomes. That being a Mass Effect game, one would expect that, right? You would expect that your dialogue would be well written, would be engaging, there'd be great music associated with it, and that's for the most part lacking, except for the main campaign. The main story is halfway decent, but yeah, as far as my overall score, classic 0 through 10, as a Mass Effect game, the quality's not there, so I can't give it anything more than a 4 out of 10. But as an RPG, because of the good combat, the decent story that's you can kind of see despite all the flawed writing, yeah, I would give it a 6 out of 10 just as an RPG. if you're not really interested in Mass Effect. But yeah, I can see why a lot of Mass Effect fans out there were just infuriated with this title because of the poor placement of music. I mean, oftentimes I would say 80% of the time I'm playing in silence. You can hear some music in the background here. It's atmospheric. I don't mind this music with the menu up. Uh, but as far as playing in the environment, oftentimes it's dead silent, and that you don't expect that in a Mass Effect game. It's jarring. And of course, the writing, as I just mentioned, is all over the place. Sometimes it's almost profound. Other times it's like, oh my god, did a 10-year-old write this dialogue? It literally is that bad, and it takes away from your experience with this game, which is unfortunate because